Everybody, so setting up the altar, you're going to want a square table. If you have a round one, that's okay, but it's going to want to be a table that you've passed down in your family or one that's brand new. So you don't want to buy a used table because it has somebody else's family's energy on it. You're going to want to wipe down the table and underneath the table and the legs after you've just cleansed it in a normal way, just get any dirt off of it, with one of the floral waters, floral water, rose water. In Hoodoo, they use a lot of van, which the main component is lemongrass or Chinese wash. And then you're going to want to smudge it. So sage on its own, I'm not a big fan of for most applications. So several herbs together, a smudge or incense stick, or I will normally just use a cigar and pass it underneath the table and on top of the table. You can mark the table with crosses if you've got holy water, or you want to use a basil sprig, you can do that. And then you do a prayer of consecration with the altar. So you basically, I'm just going to paraphrase that I dedicate this table as a meeting place between the world. I dedicate this table to God, all my good helping ancestors, known and unknown, and my spirit guides. And then the white cloth, you want to make it touching the floor, at least in the front, because it's a conduit between the ground and the dead and the higher spirits. So it needs to be touching the floor. You can have your bell to call them. One water glass, because you're not going to know all your spirits. So again, dedicate each water glass, or dedicate the one water glass to, you can hold it up to the window, to the light, or just up to the sky, to God. Again, your good helping ancestors, known and unknown, and your spirit guides, and put it back down. And another time I'll get into what the different water glasses mean. Your white candle, you can have white flowers. Crucifix, if you're going to have one, make sure it's metal because it's a better conduit of energy. Also, the water glass should be clear, no etchings, not a multitude of sides to it. And it's going to be the one big main water glass. If you are using the other small water glasses, make sure that the other water glasses are actually lower than the other water glass, and that the main water glass is not the smallest glass, should be in the middle. It should be the biggest and the tallest one. Your spiritual waters over there, I've got violet water, rose water, rue water, just Florida water, an incense burner, an ashtray for my cigar. You're going to definitely need Alan Kardec's Book of Selected Prayers, because you can't really do anything without it. It's got different prayers to do in there, and bibliomancy. And also your main water glass, you're going to want to fill that with tap water and not spring water, because you need those particles in there for the spiritual fluids to move through them. Someone was asking me before why they weren't getting any bubbles in their water glass, and that's because they were using bottled water. So yes, you want to use tap water. I know the thought's there, you want to give them the best water, but you actually need tap water in there. I do put cascarilla on my altar. Some people don't, because they feel like that adds a layer between them and their connection for their communication. But for me, I don't feel like it really blocks any of my communication. Plus, at the end of my session, I like to seal the table. So you can spray it with perfume that you wear a lot. You can use Solomon seal in some waters just to seal the table, or you can just use a little bit of cascarilla, and that just sort of locks in your session and like what you've done. So who you put on the altar. You want to put ancestors who have been gone longer than a year. So when someone first dies, we normally do an elevation. We do prayers for them and novena candles for 9 days, and then we let them go rest, purify, heal, do whatever they need to do. And then there's a process of we add them to the table, or we check on them. So they should be ancestors who died of natural causes. So no murders, suicides, overdoses, or extreme mental illness. That would be something that you would want to involve a priest in, because this table is a microcosm of your life. So if whatever goes on here or on your voodoo altar will affect different areas of your life. So you want it to be set up as properly as possible and not have any conflicts on there. I know in Haitian voodoo they don't really use their altar like we use it, because they just want to let their ancestors rest, and they have more of a taboo on the dead and stuff like that, because you are inviting them to have a say in your life, and some of them will interfere, and as they see fit, might have a different idea of what you should be doing with your life. So the ancestors you add should be ancestors, good helping ancestors who are willing to support your life choices, whether or not they agree with it, to help support you. So you, in our lineage, you can add, pets, friends. I wouldn't be adding celebrities and people you don't know on your ancestral altar per se. That's a very tricky thing. In the beginning, you should just normally just your spirits that you have a connection to. And spirit guides is something for later, because those things are normally through experienced mediums that can confirm them, and you might have an idea of some of them, but you should also be open-minded about who actually is in your court, and they might communicate a different way and be different than who you think is communicating with you for certain reasons. So you're just going to keep it as simple as possible, not too much stuff on it, because too much stuff is going to cloud up your communication. You want it clear, clean. Once a week you're going to change the water and launder the cloth, etc., and cleanse it the way you first set it up. And of course the water you're going to cleanse or change it more frequently if you see that it's cloudy or dirty or there's bugs in it or stuff like that. So yeah, in certain lineages it's bloodline only. I think it's more like the Cuban lineages, but in our lineage with Sanse, it's for our dead in general. Some will keep 2 tables, so they'll keep a tableau spiritual, which is also a white table for their guides, and then they'll keep this one for the dead. And so that's why our guides are more kept around of it. And so in general, it would be Congos on the left, fire, and then the water spirits, Indians, the native spirits on the right. So you have fire, water, and then the middle or in the front will be more airy spirits. But not always. So you have to listen to your spirits, because some might want to watch the door, for example. So somebody I knew had an Indian that wanted to sit on the other side because they wanted to watch the door. There's a patio door right there. Also, some are mixed ethnicities or by occupation or whatever. They'll want to sit different places. So, but once they tell you where they want to go, then that's generally where they stay. So if you have any other questions, let me know. Also, no gods, goddesses, no Lwa go on here, no saints. And so you will see saints on here, but they're not really the saints. And so, yes, you have to be careful when you're looking at people's altars and how they set certain things up, because a lot of it is code. It's not exactly what you see is not exactly what's happening. So I have St. Clair on there, a little figure right here, and I'll just show you. There's actually a relic taped to the back. And so she, like the cross and the monstrance, signifies light on the table, just like the candle. And so people will use different saints as a symbol of light, and so she has a lantern. The other reason people will put saints on the altar is because maybe they live with other Christian people, etc. So they don't want to have like a gypsy and African like a madama and stuff around the altar. So they'll just have a statue on the table of, say, Saint Michael or usually Saint Sebastian, to denote a male guide, a male spirit guide, of the dead. Our spirit guides are the dead. You can have and the saints are just the dead as well, but so it could be an actual spirit that's actually in your court, but we generally keep the saints over with the Lwa, usually. Except for it gets tricky with folk saints. Sometimes they want their own spot, but that's why someone said in their video, they said, you don't put saints on this altar, yet they had saints on the altar, and that confused a few people in the comments, but it's not actually the saint. When you see saints on the altar, it symbolizes either just a principle of light, or it's code for their guides. They just don't want to be as upfront of who their guides are, even if they don't tell you their names. They just don't want you to know maybe that they have a Congo or something, so they put, you know, Saint Michael on there, or they don't want you to know that they have a gypsy, so they'll just use the iconography of the Tre Maria, the Three Marias, the Hope, Faith, Charity, for example, or they'll have Saint Sebastian on there to be another male guide. So I hope that makes sense, because we don't want to put too much religious stuff on there. Books of prayers are fine. Rosary is fine. I have a nun spirit guide. A Bible is fine, but this is a place for you to communicate with your spirits, but this place is actually for the spirits. So you're not making it how you want the altar. This altar is how they want the altar. And not all of your ancestors were Christian. Some of them are, and some of them, so you'd say you had an aunt who she had Saint Teresa or something, so you put a Saint Teresa on there. That icon is for that spirit. It's not because it's Saint Teresa, or it's for you, if that makes any sense. And that's also why you'll see other things like Hindu statues of Ganesh, like the elephant and stuff. It's not just because we're adding a bunch of religions on there and that we're actually working with the god on this altar. It's because you have a Hindu spirit, and that Hindu spirit likes to work with that. If that makes any sense. It does get a bit confusing, but that's basically how you set up a simple altar, and that's basically who and what go around the altar, at least in Sanse. Because like I said, in other lineages, like in the Cuban lineage, this would be for guides only, or another table would be for ancestors only, depending on not if they honor the ancestors a more traditional African way. So yes, then you can have a bluing bowl here on the floor. I showed in the other video how to cleanse yourself into the bowl. So just a bowl bluing in there, and I gave that out, the recipe out in there too, of how to cleanse yourself over the altar. Some people cleanse themselves on this, but then this will have to be changed more frequently. And then when it has good bubbles in there, then you couldn't use that in a spiritual bath. If you've cleansed yourself over it and taken the negative energy into that, then you're not going to want to put that back on yourself. So I hope that makes sense. When your on position is you would put this inside the water glass, and when you're not in use, you can put it on the table, or you can balance it on the top here. Normally you would put a white rosary around the main glass, like I've got on there right now. And so like I said, if you have any questions, just hit me up, let me know. I'm not going to judge you for not knowing what you're doing, whether or not you have a godparent, or whether or not you've entered into the tradition properly, been baptized with the dead, or become an espiritista. And many don't become espiritistas. They just already are in the tradition, and then they have a boveda because they have the protection through being in the African religion already. But yeah, if you need to know anything about the boveda, let me know. If I don't know, I will find out for you, because I don't know everything. And if you have any questions or comments, and if I ever say anything in my videos that you have a different take on, then I'm a very open-minded person, and I don't take it the wrong way, as long as you're polite. And that's the way we can all learn. So thank you for watching my video, and I'm going to keep making more videos.